Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Kiley with Skinz.com. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to use the stone skins. The stone skins is a product I came up with because I typically would tie a really complicated stone fly and it'd take a lot of time. I wanted something that would be easy to use and basically speed up the tying process, especially if I've got to go out and I'm going to go fishing the next day and I run out of stone flies, and especially the nymph pattern. It's something that I've found very effective all over the United States as far as fishing it in every single state, literally. There's stone flies everywhere. There's different types. There's literally over 3,000 different species, and that went into the thought process of the stone skins as well. I've seen other stuff out there, and basically what I wanted to do is add a little more versatility and not take away from the creativity of the flyer. So that's why it's clear, so you can color it, you can do any color you'd like. Any dubbing that you use underneath is going to shine through the product. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to do the largest stone skin, and it's going to be a size 6. Size 6 natural bend hook, that's what I've sized all the stone skins to, and I hope you guys enjoy. So first things first, I'm going to use, for the size 6, a .025 lead wire. And I like to wrap the entire shank of the hook with this, and the reason being is I like to sink this fly and bounce it directly off the bottom. I also use it as a lead fly. So this fly, instead of using split shot, I like to use this fly actually to weight down the rest of my flies on my rig. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap the whole hook shank in lead. Seems excessive, but it also helps create a good body size for this particular size stone nymph, which is a size 6 again. And come all the way up to right about there, and then I'm going to cut the excess off with a pair of scissors there. For this fly, I also like to use 3/0 mono thread. It's clear, doesn't shine through. Once again, I'm trying to do the natural look, so it's a little more realistic with what's found in the actual environment of the water. I'm going to come in, I'm going to jam knot it up here. Get my excess off. And I'm going to come around all the lead wire. And that's going to kind of help hold it in place. I'm going to go back again. The reason I like doing this is go back and forth a couple times. It doesn't create any bulk really. But what it does do is it allows, as I'm wrapping dubbing around it, not to slip through the lead wire as much and separate those nice gaps that I've got going on. Okay. So the first thing I like to do is tie in the rear tail, and I'm going to use a fine rubber leg material. The reason I like the fine rubber is because it's got a lot of movement in the water. It doesn't take much to get moved around. I like the appearance of it as it's flowing through. So I'm going to tie this in the tail here, get it on both sides of the hook, and the cool thing about using the rubber for this is that it will actually pop out with the tension of the thread holding it down. So I'm going to leave it long for right now. Alright, so my next step is what I want to do is I want to go ahead and tie in my wire. I'm going to use a UTC Ultra brown wire because the color that I'm actually going to make this particular stone nymph is going to be like a golden stone kind of color. It's going to be a little large, but that's okay. A lot of large stones aren't necessarily dark color. Some of them are pretty bright depending on if they're just molted or not. I'm going to tie that in on the side. I'm going to put it off over here. And then I'm going to start tying in my dubbing. So I'm going to use like a tan color. Use a wet fly or natural dub. You can also use, since you've got so much lead on here, it doesn't hurt it if you wanted to even use dry dub. Dry dubbing for dry flies is actually really easy to use. It likes to bond to the thread quite well. I'm going to use quite a bit of dubbing here. I'm going to wrap over this lead. If it's a little bulky, it's no big deal. You can go back with this mono thread and you can kind of tie it down and use that to shape the body how you want it. And I want to come up to at least the halfway point on the fly here. Wrap it down a little bit. And then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the abdomen portion of the skin here and you're going to pluck it off. If you notice, it had ridges in it, and that helps place the wire around where you need to put it. And it's also got tie-in points. Those tie-in points are very helpful. Keeps it from moving around and makes it really secure. So you can see where the tie-in points are on the front. And I'm basically going to wrap my thread around those tie-in points. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to go between all those little grooves that are on the abdomen portion of the stone skin. And it also helps with your segmentation. Finish this off here, tie it in place. Trim the excess off. Alright, so the next step that I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to tie in some more legs. I'm going to do one on each side. I want these as close to the middle of the part that I cut here as possible. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fold these ones back a little bit. Give them a little bit of a gap between them. You can kind of maneuver them around where you want before you lock it down. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a little more dubbing. Use the same color for now. I'm going to wrap back towards those legs. It's going to kind of push them back. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a toothbrush and I want to stroke out some of those fibers towards the back. And then I'm going to grab my first part of where the wing casing would be, one of the first wing casings. It's got a tie-in point as well. I'm going to simply lay it on the back here. And it's going to kind of overlap the abdomen portion. I'm going to wrap that in. And I'm going to come back on it just enough to get it to kind of fold, start folding over and give it some curvature around it. It's kind of hard to see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get a tan marker and I'm going to color this so you guys can really see it pop. Usually I color at the end sometimes. Come in, you can give it a little color. It's going to have a darker top. And then I'm going to come in and I can actually, on the wing casing, I'm going to come in and color the little segmentation and the variances you normally see in a stonefly. The edges are usually dark. There's usually a stripe down the center. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little more dubbing to the front of this. And then I'm going to tie in another set of legs. Now this set of legs, one thing you can do, you make them a little bit longer in the back, and then you can go ahead, pull these all the way to the front, and you can have your antenna at the same time. Wrap that back, put a little more dubbing in front, And then I'm going to put in my second wing casing. Again, I want to brush some of these fibers back. I just like the buggy look of brushed out fibers. Second wing casing. I'm going to lay that right on top. It's going to overlap the other one just a little bit, which is fine. That's what I want. I can go ahead and color this one while I'm at it. I usually use a big variety pack of these markers. It gives you a lot of cool options that you can do. My next step, what I want to do is I want to add in some monofilament eyes or mono eyes. You can buy these pre-made or you can make them yourself. You can burn a little piece of monofilament with a lighter and put them on, or you can just buy them. Tie these in, make sure it's nice and secure. And then what I want to do is I want to add a little more dubbing to the front, and I'm also going to add, I like to add a little trout UV ice dub, which is, and I'll use the brown color in the right behind the neck. I just kind of like how it looks, and I also think that depending on the time of the year, if I'm fishing a stone and the fish are actually responding to that UV light sequence or light ray, whatever you want to call it, and then you have it already built in. Plus it adds like a hot spot, so to speak. So this is my ice dub. I'm going to put it right in the center there, right behind his neck. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to brush this out a little bit. I've got Velcro on the back of this toothbrush as well. It kind of grabs the fibers a little better. You don't want to do too much, though. You don't want to pull out too much on this one. Now I'm going to take the last part of the skin and I'm going to lay it on here. It's got these grooves in it. It's a tie-in point, but it also fits conveniently right behind the flies, or right in between the eyes of the fly. You can crisscross over it, and then you can come in, a couple more wraps, but right behind the eyes, and then I'll whip finish right there. And I'm using the mono thread, so you really can't see it at all. I'm going to come in and cut this out. I'm going to do a little more coloring here. The cool part is the color, whatever you're using, shines through the skin as well. So it gives a little transparent look. A lot of aquatic bugs are transparent. Come in here. If you look at the bottom, you can't see the thread either. And I like to brush some of this out as well. Just rough it up. It gives a really good look in the water. And then the last part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the UV Loon Clear Finish Flow. And it's going to seep in all the little cracks and crevices, and it's going to really give it a cool look to the fly, make it really strong and durable, especially since I've got so much weight on it. It's going to be bouncing off the bottom. Go ahead and shine that. I'm going to come back in. I left my legs a little bit long because what I want to do is I want to give them some stripes or markings. So gives you a little something else to hold on to. If you stretch the rubber or latex, whatever you're going to use for the legs, the more you stretch it before you mark it, it'll actually stay on there better and longer than it would if you didn't. So I'm going to take all my legs at the same time, run across them, give it some character here. And then I'll trim them to the length I want. I like to leave mine a little bit long. I think it's actually adds a lot of action to the fly. If you look at some other stonefly imitations, the legs are long. I think that really adds to it. And that